No one understands Tears of the Kingdom, huh? We'll see about that. So a handful of people have asked me what I thought about this video by Hayato Sensei Dark, and, well, I've definitely got some thoughts on it. Before I jump right into those thoughts, though, I want to emphasize that although this will be written in second person, as though I'm talking directly to the creator of this video, I have absolutely nothing against him. I do not know him, and I did reach out to him to get permission to respond to his video. Absolutely nothing in this video should be understood as a personal attack. It isn't. It can't be. I don't know this person. And regardless of my thoughts on the opinions expressed in his video, which may be exaggerated for comedic effect, producing a video essay is no small feat, and I want to commend his effort, especially as a fellow small creator. Definitely go give his video a watch. It's mercifully short, unlike certain other videos. Alright, let's do this.
Video game sequels are kind of weird. As an audience, I tend to...
Look, I'm too much of a coward to show my face on the internet. You're braver than I am. But if you're gonna wear sunglasses indoors to disguise the fact that you're actively reading the script, maybe make it so that you can't see the reflection of the script in your sunglasses.
Majora's Mask was the sequel to Wind Waker, and Ocarina of Time was the prequel to Phantom Hourglass.
Speaking of brave, intentionally mixing up Majora's Mask and Phantom Hourglass is an ambitious bit, considering die-hard Zelda fans are pretty much entirely incapable of understanding jokes.
But there was a problem with this sequel specifically. They were reusing the same Hyrule from Breath of the Wild.
No, that's not the problem. The problem is the lack of continuity and the fact that Tears of the Kingdom did next to nothing to remedy the biggest issues with Breath of the Wild. Reusing Hyrule isn't inherently a bad thing, and they could have done it successfully, they just didn't.
People don't realize that this game is charting new territory.
If people don't realize that the sequel is charting new territory, it means it's a bad sequel.
So what is the point of a sequel? In books and movies, we don't just want the same thing again. We want the next entry to build on what came before it. We want to see a shift in the status quo, and we want to see our favorite characters grow.
Well, yes, that's the whole problem with Tears of the Kingdom. It didn't do that.
I'd argue that this is the kind of sequel Tears of the Kingdom is supposed to be. Not the traditional video game sequel, but a proper narrative sequel.
Proper narrative sequel? What? Where? Is the proper narrative sequel in the room with us right now?
It assumes you've seen Hyrule before.
No, actually, Tears of the Kingdom is built to be as accessible as possible to newcomers, at the cost of actually developing characters and scenarios people might remember from their time with Breath of the Wild.
Change is the driving factor in the player's experience of Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. While the first game had players asking, "What's that thing over there? Can I touch it?" Now players are asking questions like, "What happened to my house?"
I definitely agree with your assessment that for returning players, a lot of the intrinsic motivation to re-explore the world is rooted in seeing what's changed. The issue is that almost nothing of substance has. For example,
"What happened to my house?"
Zelda moved in, and all of your stuff is gone. This is never explained.
"Can I go back to the Shrine of Resurrection?"
Nope, there's no more Shrine of Resurrection, it's gone forever, and this is never explained.
And your reward for asking these questions? Everything is different.
Everything is different? I'd really love to play the game you're talking about, but that's not Tears of the Kingdom.
Lurelin has been overrun by pirates.
Pirates? What pirates? These? I'm pretty sure these are bokoblins. And when you beat them and repair the town, it's exactly the same as it was in Breath of the Wild.
Rito Village is dealing with climate change.
Rito Village is what? It's dealing with what? Rito Village is dealing with a blizzard, and then you beat Colgera and the village goes back to how it was in Breath of the Wild.
While the basic layout hasn't changed at all, the Fallen Ruins put in serious work.
Do they, though? Do they really?
The shrines and towers are all in new locations, mixing things up in a way that still feels familiar.
But there's no shrine on Shrine Island! Also, I love that you keep showing clips from this one same Fallen Sky Island, since it's basically the only remotely sizable one in the entire game.
Fuse is the biggest standout for me, giving materials some actual complexity and utility.
I guess that's fair. With a few exceptions, materials weren't super useful in Breath of the Wild, and Fuse definitely gives them some new uses.
It's a huge improvement over the previous system.
Except in this clip right here that you're currently showing on screen, you can see Link selecting types of arrows, something you can't do in Tears of the Kingdom.
While swords still break, it's not really a big deal. If anything, a broken sword is an opportunity to glue another big number to a stick.
If a broken sword is just an opportunity to glue a big number to a stick, why give you swords that break at all? Having the weapons constantly break makes you feel like you're wasting your Fuse materials and the weapons they're attached to. I don't disagree that Fuse is a cool system, but it's not like it fixes Breath of the Wild's issues. It just added different problems.
Ascend is an unsung hero.
Unsung? By who?
Think about it. Who wants to trek in and out of every single cave in the game?
Hopefully you, since in order to get 100% map completion, you need to find every single cave entrance.
The Zonai devices give Link crazy new movement options, and I'm sure you've seen the war machines people have made out of these.
If these war machines are so fun, then where's your footage of them? Surely you use these Ultra Hand contraptions all the time in your playthrough. Unless you don't, and Ultra Hand is just a gimmick that's not well implemented. But you wouldn't admit that, would you?
Ultra Hand also opens up a bunch of new types of side quests. Several shrine quests involve escorting a literal rock from one sky island to another.
Is this supposed to be a good thing? Is your argument here that having 25 copy and pasted crystal escort missions is a good thing?
Turns out, Link makes a pretty good escort.
That's weird, and possibly racist.
And generally, quests have increased in complexity.
Have they?
Think about the rumors at each stable you need to investigate.
Okay, I'm thinking about them.
Think about the side quest at Terrytown.
Okay, I'm thinking about it.
The labyrinths, for example, they evolved by adding extra layers for Link to navigate.
And I'm sure that these labyrinths reward you with something very cool and relevant.
Instead of the major test of stank shrines, we have the proving grounds.
Okay, major test of stank did make me laugh.
Then, of course, there are the depths. Far more complex, far more challenging to navigate than Hyrule ever was.
The depths are more complex than Hyrule? In what universe? The depths have no towns, no side quests, no shrines, a grand total of 2 biomes, and the area is predominantly just empty space. What are you talking about?
You actually need to manage your resources down there, especially since there's nothing down there that will restore Link's health. The danger is compounded by the gloom, which is much harder to shake off than regular damage.
If the point you're trying to make is about resource management, maybe don't show your giant inventory full of cooked meals that can help you easily negate any gloom damage. Also, you can extremely easily travel to the surface or to any of the 120 light routes, and then it doesn't pose any real risk to you whatsoever.
But if you're willing to make the trip, you'll be rewarded with weapons, armor, and zonite deposits.
But not the big zonite deposits. You can only get those once. They never respawn.
But beyond just adding complexity to the game, there's an undeniable undercurrent of growth.
I deny it.
Things aren't just different in Hyrule now. Hyrule is recovering. The people are finally putting in work. The most obvious example is Lookout Landing.
No, Lookout Landing isn't the most obvious example, it's the only example. Can you believe that by the time you're off the Great Sky Island and have gotten your paraglider, you've already seen the biggest island in the entire sky and the only new settlement in the entire game?
The Raiders of Hyrule quests feature entire squadrons going to battle against the monster forces.
You know, the same monsters you've been fighting for the entire game. You don't need the monster squads to take care of these guys. These missions make it clear that when the blood moon comes, these monsters are all going to respawn. You're not actually making a difference. You're not helping Hyrule heal. It's just more busy work.
And let's not forget the research teams.
I forgot about them.
There are Hylians all over the map experimenting, examining, trying to get to the bottom of this upheaval.
And nothing ever comes of it. You know just as much about the upheaval by the end of the game as you did at the beginning.
Something has changed for these people.
Please notice how you haven't mentioned literally any of the main cast. No discussion of how Zelda's changed, no discussion of the great character writing of Pura, or Sidon, or Tulin, and that's because it doesn't exist. If the whole game is about growth and change and progress, where's your evidence? You're basically just saying, this game is good because it's evolved, and it's evolved because it's evolved. Just trust me.
They no longer aimlessly sit around and accept their fate.
You know, except for all the ones that do.
They've been inspired to take their lives into their own hands.
Do you have an example of this? Like, even one?
The Yiga, hiding in the shadows, have been working on new strategies.
New strategies, like building shitty cars and enemy bases with a single weak foot soldier guarding them?
Even the Bokoblins are moving up in the world, joining up with Taluses to improve their mobility.
Because when I think of mobility, I think of an extremely slow lumbering rock monster. Do you think that moving up in the world refers to literally being higher up?
So why all this focus on characters growing and improving?
What focus on characters growing and improving? You have yet to give a single example of a main character growing or improving in some way.
Well, there is one other person who's grown through all this. You.
Me?
You still take fall damage, but at least you know how to open the menu and regain some health as you ragdoll into the abyss.
Is this supposed to be evidence of your mastery of the game, that you know to pause and cram food in your mouth while you're hurtling down the cliff? Wouldn't a better demonstration of your mastery be not doing that?
Discovery was never the thing that kept you coming back to Breath of the Wild, not years after you beat it the first time. No, you keep coming back because it's fun to get better at the game.
I mean, you're right to a point, but once you've memorized the Flurry Rush patterns for one Lionel, you've memorized them all. Both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have low skill ceilings, and the enemies don't get harder to fight because they're faster, or are smarter in some way, or have more varied movesets. For the most part, they just gain more HP, forcing you to break all of your most valuable weapons to clear out a single enemy camp that rarely rewards you with anything good, and never rewards you with anything permanent. If the argument you're making is that it feels good to play Tears of the Kingdom because you want that sense of progression back, just replay Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom doesn't have a master mode either, so if you're looking for that extra challenge, you can only get it in Breath of the Wild.
Maybe Link lost his heart and stamina, but the player still has all that game knowledge.
But Tears of the Kingdom never assumes that you have game knowledge, from Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. You're talking about this game like it treats you like you're a competent player who knows what they're doing. Everywhere you look, there's another tutorial or another extremely simple puzzle. This game is not testing your mastery.
You don't need to be told where to find things.
Then why do they still give you a million glowing waypoints?
You don't need to relearn combat.
Then why are there 7 combat tutorial shrines?
The new Dazzle Fruit, Puff Shroom, and Muddlebud let you disrupt the enemies in brand new ways.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could just hit them with your weapon, and it will kill them much faster. The game does not make you use these new combat mechanics. They're like a polite suggestion. That's sort of the problem with the whole game. All the fun stuff is optional.
You can launch yourself into the sky and paraglide anywhere.
I know you think this is a good thing. I know it feels like a good thing in the moment. I promise it's not a good thing.
Or build a machine that makes horses useless.
Horses are already useless. Also, is this supposed to be a good thing?
And now that they've given you an arsenal of options, you're supposed to use them.
You're not giving a single example of a time that the game asks you concretely to use the building mechanics, and that's because outside of the tutorial, it almost never happens. This building system's complex and it's well executed, but it's wasted on this game because they never ask you to use it for anything.
Use every rune at your disposal to take out the Flux constructs.
And I hope you liked fighting that Flux construct because you're gonna have to do it again and again and again and again. Forever.
It wants you to test yourself against its shrines.
But only 2/3 of the shrines, because the other third are empty.
I don't know about you guys, but for me, Breath of the Wild released in 2017.
Nope, it's just you.
Now I have adult money.
And you're gonna need it, because Tears of the Kingdom costs $70.
This game lets you reminisce the same way you reminisce when you're revisiting your childhood hometown. You see your favorite playground, but it looks different because you're bigger. You talk to an old friend, but it feels different because you're both older. You drive past your old house, but it's different because someone else lives there now. The nostalgia we feel in Tears of the Kingdom is perhaps the most natural nostalgia we can feel.
I understand what you're saying here, but the same can be true the other way around. Tears of the Kingdom can feel like going back to your childhood favorite restaurant, but the food isn't as good anymore. And you can't tell if it's because the food got worse, or if it's just because you're older, because you have a more refined palate, you've tried more foods. And maybe the mac and cheese that was super delicious when you were 10 just doesn't hit the same anymore.
Tears of the Kingdom isn't just DLC. It's a proper sequel. It's a game about looking back, getting stronger, and moving forward. And isn't that what sequels are supposed to be about?
If Tears of the Kingdom was the game that you're describing, it would be a masterpiece. But it isn't. The game that you're describing doesn't exist. I don't think this is an issue of people not understanding the game. I think we do understand it, we're just disappointed. If you want to know why exactly Tears of the Kingdom was so disappointing to me, you might consider watching my video. It's a little long, but maybe you'll find it interesting. Hi everyone, now that I'm back I wanted to put out a video just to tide you guys over while I work on some other projects, so be on the lookout for those in the coming weeks and months. Thank you to all of my patrons who you can see on screen, and in particular to my holy skits. Thank you Soul, thank you Rob, thank you Redman, thank you for supporting me in all of my little plushie endeavors. See you next time, and thanks for watching.